They're mean, they're unclean, and this one looks like a mutant kidney bean. Today we're talking about the Grineer Queens on Warframe Lore 101. Jokes aside, this was an absolutely wild one to research, and I almost think it changed my perception of these characters, at least with their origin. First, who are the Grineer? The Grineer are one of the primary factions and antagonist groups in the game Warframe. They are made up of genetically defective clones, so think the clones from Star Wars, but bigger, don't live as long, and very, very louder. They were created by the Orokin, the sci-fi tech humans we covered before, as a means of forced labor. They then rebelled during the Old War when everyone was fighting the Orokin and became their own militaristic group after that. Despite being hailed as their rulers, though, the Grineer Queens are not Grineer. They're Orokin, or at least that's how they started. Most of the backstory we know about the Grineer Queens comes to us from a mysterious figure known as Olemity. This Orokin historian created a poem detailing the history of the Queens, and carved stanzas of said poem onto a series of cat-like relics known as the Curia that were scattered throughout the galaxy. When put together, we learn that the Grineer Queens were initially born as twins in the Orokin Empire during the Old War. However, having twins was seen as taboo in Orokin society, since sharing a face with another was something meant only for the Grineer clones who all looked the same. The Orokin also probably saw the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie and were like, nah. As such, the twin queens were shunned throughout their younger years. This mutual suffering, though, built a nearly unbreakable bond between the two sisters who grew in both strength and mind. During the fall of the Orokin Empire, with the Grineer uprising in full force, the twin queens fought against the Grineer, apparently tearing them a new one on multiple occasions. And if galactic conquest ain't the definition of sisterly strength, I don't know what is. And here's kind of what I consider to be the coolest part. After years of fighting the Grineer, the twins became legends to them. Not just for their combat prowess, but also because the Grineer were inspired by the sisters' bond. The twins shared a face, just as the Grineer did with everyone in their race. The Grineer were all identical, but the twins showed them that they could be more, that they could be brothers that strengthened each other. Eventually, the Grineer decided to try and make the twins their rulers, and they accepted, leading their newfound army to carve out a spot of power in the galaxy, side by side. And that's where I wish I could say the story ended. But unfortunately, that was the past, and the present is much worse. See, a long time ago, the Orokin found a way to make themselves functionally immortal using a process called continuity. The way continuity works is when an Orokin would get old, they would transfer their consciousness into a younger, healthier Orokin body. And you might be thinking, oh, did they build artificial bodies to do this so that it would be somewhat ethical? It's the Orokin. No, there were kidnappings. The twin queens, being Orokin themselves, tried using continuity to prolong their own lives after becoming the leaders of the Grineer. However, there were only genetically defunct Grineer bodies lying around, so they worked with what they had. For hundreds of years, the Grineer Queens moved their consciousnesses from decaying Grineer body to decaying Grineer body. And whether caused by the makeup of Grineer brains or just time being unkind, over time, the queens became unbearably cruel to not only their subjects, but also to each other. Flash forward to the reawakening of the Tenno, and now the sisters that started as twins look nothing alike. One, the Elder Queen, being the clear commanding presence of the Grineer, filled with violence and malice. The other simply referred to as the Worm, a crazed cannibal who the Elder Queen regularly berates and abuses. Major spoilers for the War Within quest, so just a heads up. Upon hearing that the Tenno are awake, the queens attempt to lure them into a trap to perform continuity on them, seeking to once again possess an Orokin body. However, this plan goes horribly awry, and the Elder Queen is sent to a farm. Now all that's left is the Worm, who commands her legions in finding a way to revive the Elder Queen, whether from a buried love for her once close sister, or fear that she cannot lead the Grineer herself. The Grineer Queens are a tragedy through and through. A tale of sisterly strength eventually torn apart by a deep, progressive corruption. A tale I wasn't even aware of before researching this video. From their present-day versions, I thought they were simply heartless, cruel beings constantly on the search for more power. But now, every time I hear the Worm's voice on the intercom, I think I hear a little less of a sadistic monster and more of a scared girl crying out for her lost sister.